On today's video, Rise of Kingdoms' plethora of legendary commanders is quite known, and the meta continues to shift. The legendary commanders are divided essentially into two categories: before Season of Conquest and after and while you're in Season of Conquest. In this video, we're going to talk about the commanders that are coming before you get to Season of Conquest, and which ones of them have a shelf life that will hold not only for pre-Season of Conquest, but also for Season of Conquest, and even for the latest meta 2 years later. So sit back, slap a like on the video, and let's go. Hey there, YouTube. Welcome back to Gekko Gaming. Listen, when you guys come into Rise of Kingdoms, some of y'all are still in Season 1, 2, and 3. You're new to the game, and you're looking for longevity. You're not necessarily spending a ton in the game, and you really want to make sure that the commanders that you're maxing will be useful for you not only in the Season of Conquest, before Season of Conquest and in the KVKs that you're in right now, but also later in the future, in a matter that these commanders won't just sit on your shelf and do nothing. So let's talk about which commanders you should consider maxing out pre-Season of Conquest that will last you until way after Season of Conquest for pretty much everything. The first commander in the list is the one that you're seeing on your screen right here, the best legendary commander, single legendary commander in the game, who is incredibly useful for rallies, for open field fights, and for events like barbarian hunting, barbarian chaining, and all that good stuff. Yi Seong-gye still remains the single best legendary commander in the game with the most versatility and utility, and the one that's used to this day 900 plus days later. I've been in Rise of Kingdoms for 964 days, and some folks have been here longer than I have, and even they still use YSG from day one and so on. Obviously, YSG comes out after Richard I, and it is definitely the one you want to be maxing out first. He will sit in your lineup and will be useful in your lineup as a secondary commander for a very, 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 very long time. Why? He has the best AoE in the game, area of effect damage, a circular AoE, which is actually nutty. That only happens, of course, once you expertise him, so this is why you have to expertise him. And if you don't, you get a fan-shaped AoE, and it's a less recommended. That area is the biggest AoE area there is. It hits up to 5 targets, and really, he's always everywhere. In open field fights, in Ark of Osiris, in hunting barbarians, in doing events, in rallies, for archer rallies. We've seen Nebu YSG rallies all over the place as well. He's extremely good for all KVKs as well for all those purposes. And therefore, he is your top dog. He's the one you expertise first. Now, the second commander in this list is not necessarily the second one I would expertise, or one that I would necessarily expertise at all. And that is Saladin. Saladin is a pretty gnarly commander at a 5551. One of the few commanders you can leave at 5551, and you're pretty much going to get 90% of his utility. Obviously, you can get a little bit more by getting that fourth skill done and get more damage bonus. But again, the damage to garrison when attacking cities. So this is only when you attack cities, and I don't necessarily think you're going to do that with a Saladin. And on top of that, the expertise, it's nice, but it's not something that you necessarily need. More speed reduction, healing effects, received a 50% for 50% instead of 40%, a little bit of extra damage factor is not necessarily something that is worth the last 310 legendary commander sculptures you're going to need to expertise this commander. But he is completely and out of his mind a primary commander as well as a secondary commander in some of the latest garrison meta. As a primary commander, he can pretty much hold any commander behind him that does damage. Khan is one of the most known ones, but Khan goes onto the shelf very quickly and never comes back. And there are other commanders you can use with him, but even if you don't really use him that much, you mix him up with a Pelagius or with a Baybars temporarily. He's a commander you'll be using later on in the game as a good primary with William, for example, on the open field. That's one of the most amazing marches there is out there. You can use him as a garrison, a secondary for a Jadwiga garrison later on. You can use him for many other utilities. You can have a Saladin Takeda march as well. So Saladin is a 380 sculpture investment that is going to last a very long time, and he's very relevant in the meta to this day. When we talk about commanders that are relevant in meta, the meaning of it is not this they're necessarily primary and or secondary, but that Even with the latest and greatest commanders that come out, you still find usability for these commanders. An example of a commander that doesn't see too much usability in the later stage of the game is someone like Minamoto, like Cao Cao. These are, or we can even go with El Cid. Some of these commanders do get used in specific situations, in specific setups and scenarios in Arc of Osiris, for example, but it's very rare that you'll find them on the open field as the top primary commanders out there. Of course, there are people who still use these commanders because that's the commanders they have and that's what they want to work with. That is completely fine. But if you're looking for the best investment, the place where you're going to have a good return pre-KV, pre-Season of Conquest, so far, Yi Seong-Gye and Saladin are the ones you want to take. Now, I'm assuming, because I haven't seen the Season of Conquest limit, I'm assuming it goes all the way to Edward and Tamaris, and so we're going to focus all the way there. From there come the infantry commanders, and you can see him right where my mouse is. Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great is probably the best infantry investment you can make early on. He holds his weight through thick and thin. He is fantastic with pretty much any other commander that you get in the early stage. If you have a decently leveled up Charles Martel from opening keys and just doing Mightiest Governors or something like that, or you spun a little bit for Richard and you have a decent Richard, you might have even invested a little bit of sculptures on them, which is not terrible, but at this stage, I'm not so sure whether Richard holds his weight long-term based on a few other things that you can do. Of course, if there's one commander that I would say gets a commendable mention in this video, it would be Richard. He was coming in later on, but you can do a lot with the Alexander, and Alexander pairs up great with future commanders. You have him pairing up fantastic with a Guan Yu, with a Herald, and so forth and so on for open field and rallies, as well as for pretty much anything you'd like. And so Alexander is a fantastic pickup. He is actually the second commander I would say you should expertise. He holds his weight through thick and thin, gets you great damage for infantry, and, you know, overall, great value. So we're talking two commanders and a 5/5/5 one commander, which is pretty much one of each type, which will set you up for future pairs and future situations with other legendary commanders from Season of Conquest and on that are part of the newer meta in case you want to skip straight to that. These are the core basis you need in order to have pairs for future commanders. The final one in our list is one that it gets the least love in Rise of Kingdoms. She is literally the worst Mightiest Governor, the easiest one to get, at least when I was there, to the point where I got second place in a Mightiest Governor for her, where I wasn't even trying. I just trained what I usually trained in Kingdom 59 and Mightiest Governors and ended up second. Yeah, that is none other than Tamaris. Tamaris gets zero love. Tamaris is a weirdo that needs another archer commander to pair with her and not Yi Seong-Gye because she is better off as a secondary. And for a very long time, I mean, Edward Tamaris was fantastic. The problem is Edward just 1k VK and you can put him on the shelf and never look at him again. Now, granted, there are people out there using Edward with Nebu in newer meta. However, there are other commanders who do just as good, if not better, that are also useful for much longer term than Edward is. And therefore, Edward is not recommended, in my opinion, as a core commander that you should have as a base commander, but Tamaris actually is. The reason for that is that she is the only person in this game that can poison. And this poison is ridiculous. It deals a direct damage factor of 1,000, okay? If it's already poisoned, then it removes the poison stack and inflicts an extra damage on it. If it's more than 10, it goes all the way to 80. Now, the max is 15. So you can end up with 1,200 damage in here, plus another 1,000 out of here from proccing this skill. Her fourth skill, where the actual poisoning happens, and it's really one you want to have maxed out, has the probability of poisoning, getting a stack of poison. Now, the stack lasts up to 5 seconds, but the timer refresh every single stack. So with 100% probability, the stack will remain forever until the skill is procced, and then this takes away the poison. And so with a correct setup, you can get a target to 15 stacks and keep it there for a turn or two until things go crazy. But normal attacks of troops led by this commander have a 100% chance to add a stack poison. It stacks up to 15 times. Okay? And for each stack, takes an extra 3% skill damage. And that's not 3% skill damage from her. That's 3% skill damage period. So if there's a swarm of Khans, which do a dumb amount of damage, with skill damage right there, and on top of that, ooh, I didn't know we had that. Sweet. Anyway, that's a little distraction. You do something like this, and then you have someone has an expertise, and at a 30% chance, the man procs it twice. Add to that a 45% damage. You're looking at 4,000+ damage out of one single skill hit by having a Tamaris debuff on that march. Tamaris is the most underrated secondary commander, and in future Archer commanders for Season of Conquest that are good for long-term investment, she gets a couple of friends that can carry her as primary commanders. But you can hide her behind Herman and even Kusunoki if you need to, because at the end of the day, her job is one and one thing only. Stack those debuffs so that your teammates and you as well can hit the life out of it. Think about a 45% skill damage plus all of this. And nobody looked at her because she has archers, and at the time, archers were very underrated. Now, in the latest meta, archers are actually extremely sought after. AoE has become a very big thing. But if I were to tell you as a low spender or as a medium spender or as someone who is looking to only expertise commanders that you'll use for a very long time, these are the 4 commanders that I would urge you to focus on. Yi Seong-Gye, Alexander, 5551 Saladin, and from there, get your Tamaris ready to rock and roll. Out of all 4, more than likely, Tamaris will be the least used temporarily until you build up your archer arsenal a little bit more. But the other 3, I mean, Alexander YSG, for the record, is a fantastic both rally leader and rally march and a fantastic open field march. So you can even use those 2 together with infantries, and you're set using infantry for Alex's damage and skills and all that, and the AoE from YSG in the back. It works, and it works well. So 4 commanders for you to focus on pre-Season of Conquest that I think will give you the best bang for your buck for the general future for you in Rise of Kingdoms. If you see yourself playing for on the long term, if you're the kind of person that can see yourself sinking your teeth into this game for the next 2-3 years like we have, these are the commanders that I recommend you to get. What do you all think? Leave me a comment down below and let me know. I'm Gekko. I'm out of here. I appreciate it. If some of you slapped a like on this video, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Well, technically speaking, I'll see you on stream tomorrow. Peace.